The night shattered with a deafening crash, the kind that rips through dreams and drags you into a nightmare. Marcus Reed bolted upright, his Navy training kicking in before his eyes adjusted to the dark. The living room of their Harborview, Washington, duplex glowed faintly from the streetlights filtering through the blinds, but the sound, a door splintering under force, was unmistakable. Beside him, Amara stirred, her hand instinctively reaching for his. Marcus, what? Her words were cut off by a blinding flash and a sharp, electric crack. Amara's body convulsed, her gasp swallowed by the chaos as she crumpled to the floor, a taser's barbs embedded in her chest. Marcus's heart stopped, his world narrowing to her trembling form. Amara, he roared, lunging toward her, but a wall of black-clad SWAT officers surged into the room, their rifles trained on him. Hands up! Down on the ground! The shouts overlapped, a cacophony of adrenaline and fear. Marcus froze, his hands raised, his eyes locked on Amara. She was curled on the hardwood, her breaths shallow, her hands clutching her stomach. His mind raced, years of de-escalation training from the Navy clashing with the primal urge to protect her. The officers' faces were obscured by helmets, their voices harsh, but Marcus saw the flicker of uncertainty in their eyes. They were expecting a threat, a criminal, not a man in sweatpants kneeling beside his wife. Step back, barked the lead officer, a wiry man with a name tag reading Caldwell. His rifle wavered, his finger too close to the trigger. Marcus didn't move. His voice emerged low, steady, cutting through the chaos like a blade. She's pregnant, you tossed my wife. The room went still. Caldwell's rifle dipped slightly, his eyes widening behind his visor. The other officers exchanged glances, their shouts dying in their throats. The words hung in the air, heavy with truth and accusation. Amara's pregnancy, 5 months along, their first child, was a secret they'd shared with only family, a fragile hope now exposed in the wreckage of their home. The taser's blue arc had not just struck Amara, it had threatened their future. Get her help. Marcus demanded, his voice unwavering despite the storm inside him. He knelt beside Amara, his hands gentle as he brushed her hair from her face. Breathe, love, I'm here, he whispered, his heart pounding. Her eyes fluttered, filled with pain and fear, but she nodded faintly. The officers hesitated, their radios crackling with static. A younger officer, Ruiz, lowered his weapon and reached for his radio. We need medics, now, he said, his voice tight. The duplex was a war zone, splintered door, overturned furniture, glass from a shattered lamp glittering on the floor. Marcus's mind flashed to his deployments, the controlled chaos of a ship under attack, but this was different. This was his home, his sanctuary, invaded by a mistake he couldn't yet fathom. Why are you here? He asked, his gaze piercing Caldwell. Caldwell shifted, his confidence faltering. We had a warrant for this address, he said, but his voice lacked conviction. Marcus's jaw tightened. You got the wrong place. The truth was undeniable, written in the chaos around them. Amara's trembling form was proof of their failure. Ruiz's radio crackled again, confirming the medic's arrival. Marcus stayed by Amara, his hand on hers, grounding her as the paramedics rushed in. A woman with steady hands knelt beside Amara, checking her pulse. Ma'am, I'm Sarah. Can you tell me where it hurts? Amara's voice was weak. My chest, my stomach. Sarah's eyes flicked to Marcus, concern etched in her face. We need to get her to the hospital, check on her and the baby. Marcus nodded, relief warring with rage. As the paramedics lifted Amara onto a stretcher, he stood, his eyes locking on Caldwell. This isn't over, he said, his voice a promise. Outside, the night was alive with sirens and flashing lights, neighbors peering from their porches, whispers spreading like wildfire. Marcus followed the stretcher, his hand never leaving Amara's, his mind already turning to the fight ahead. At Harborview Medical Center, the waiting room was sterile, the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. Marcus sat beside Amara's bed, her hand in his, her hospital gown a stark contrast to her usual vibrant energy. She was stable, the doctors said, but they needed to monitor the baby. The taser's shock hadn't caused immediate harm, but the risk of complications loomed. Marcus's chest tightened, guilt gnawing at him. He'd promised to protect her, their child, but he'd been powerless against the SWAT team's mistake. A detective, Elena Torres, arrived, her notepad in hand. "Mr. Reed, I'm investigating the incident at your home," she said, her tone professional but cautious. Marcus met her gaze. "How do you storm the wrong house and tase a pregnant woman?" His voice was calm, but the anger beneath it was palpable. Torres sighed. "The warrant listed your address, but it was meant for a house 2 blocks over." "A clerical error." Marcus's eyes narrowed. "An error that could have killed my wife and child." Torres nodded, her expression grim. "We're reviewing the process, warrant verification, team briefing. I assure you, we're taking this seriously." Amara stirred, her voice soft but firm. "It's not just about us. How many others have been hurt by mistakes like this?" Marcus squeezed her hand, pride swelling in his chest. Even now, Amara's heart was with the community, her years as an organizer shining through. Torres jotted down notes. "I'll keep you updated," she said, standing. "You have my word." As Torres left, Marcus leaned close to Amara. "We'll fight this, together," he said. She nodded, her eyes fierce despite her exhaustion. "For our baby, for everyone." The hospital room was quiet, but outside, the city buzzed with news of the raid. Marcus knew the road ahead would be long, but his resolve was unbreakable. The system had failed them, but they would rise, a light in the storm, demanding justice. The next morning, Marcus stood in their wrecked duplex, surveying the damage. The door hung off its hinges, the living room a maze of broken furniture. Amara was still at the hospital, under observation, and Marcus felt her absence like a physical ache. He pulled out his phone and called his old Navy buddy, Jamal, now a lawyer in Seattle. "They raided our house," tossed Amara, Marcus said, his voice steady. "She's pregnant, man. I need advice." Jamal's voice was sharp with outrage. "Document everything: photos, medical records, statements. Get a lawyer who knows civil rights cases. This is bigger than a mistake, it's systemic." Marcus nodded, his determination growing. He hung up and began photographing the damage, each click fueling his resolve. When Amara returned home that evening, her steps were slow, her hand resting on her stomach. Marcus helped her to the couch, their eyes meeting in silent understanding. "We're not victims," Amara said, her voice firm. "We're fighters." Marcus smiled, his heart swelling. "Always." They sat together, planning their next steps, contacting a lawyer, reaching out to community groups, preparing to speak out. The night had broken their peace, but it had also ignited a fire within them, one that would burn until justice was served. The days following the raid were a blur of hospital visits, police interviews, and sleepless nights. Marcus Reed sat at the kitchen table of their Harborview duplex, the splintered door a constant reminder of the night that changed everything. Amara, now home but still shaken, rested on the couch, her hand protectively over her stomach. The doctors had cleared her and the baby, but the emotional scars ran deep. Marcus's Navy-honed discipline kept him focused, but beneath it, anger simmered, not just at the SWAT team, but at a system that allowed such mistakes to happen. Their lawyer, Nia Carter, was a force of nature, her sharp eyes scanning the police report as she sat across from them. "This is a clear case of excessive force and negligence," she said, her voice steady. "The warrant error is indefensible, and tossing a pregnant woman? That's a violation of basic human rights." Marcus nodded, his jaw tight. "We want accountability, Nia. Not just for us, but to stop this from happening again." Amara leaned forward, her voice soft but resolute. "I've seen families torn apart by police mistakes in my work. We need to shine a light on this, for them." Nia smiled, a spark of admiration in her eyes. "You two are fighters. We'll file a civil rights lawsuit against the Harborview Police Department. It'll be a tough road, but we've got a strong case." As Nia left, Marcus turned to Amara. "You okay with this? It's going to get intense." She met his gaze, her eyes fierce. "I'm scared, Marcus, but I'm ready. Our baby deserves a world where this doesn't happen." He squeezed her hand, their bond a lifeline in the storm. The community response was swift and divided. Amara's network of organizers rallied, spreading word of the raid through social media and local news. A vigil formed outside their duplex, neighbors holding candles and signs reading "Justice for Marcus and Amara" and "End Police Mistakes." Marcus stood on the porch, his voice steady as he thanked them. "This isn't just our fight," he said. "It's for every family who's been hurt by a system that doesn't see us." But not everyone was supportive. Online, trolls accused them of exaggerating, claiming the police were just doing their job. At Amara's community center, where she ran youth programs, some parents questioned her involvement, fearing trouble near their kids. One mother, Carla, approached Amara after a meeting. "I'm with you," she said, her voice low. "My brother was stopped for no reason last year. Keep fighting." Amara nodded, grateful, but the weight of opposition was heavy. Marcus, too, faced pushback. At his job as a mechanic, a co-worker muttered, "Why make a fuss? Cops make mistakes." Marcus's hands tightened on his wrench, but he kept his voice calm. Mistakes shouldn't cost lives. The exchange left him drained, but it fueled his resolve. He and Amara weren't just fighting for themselves, they were fighting for a future where their child could live without fear. One evening, they attended a community meeting at a local church, organized by Amara's colleagues. The room was packed, neighbors, activists, even a few police officers in plain clothes. Marcus stood at the podium, his Navy posture unwavering. "My wife was tossed in our home," he said, his voice carrying. "She's 5 months pregnant. That's not a mistake, it's a failure. We need better training, clearer protocols, and accountability." Amara spoke next, her voice steady despite her nerves. "I've spent years building trust in this community. That trust was shattered in seconds. We can rebuild it, but only if we face the truth." The room erupted in applause, but Marcus noticed the officers' tense expressions. Change wouldn't come easily. After the meeting, a young officer, Ruiz, the one who'd called for medics, approached them. "I'm sorry for what happened," he said, his voice low. "I didn't know the address was wrong." Marcus studied him, seeing genuine remorse. "Help us fix this," he said. Ruiz nodded, a flicker of resolve in his eyes. Back home, Marcus and Amara sat in their living room, the broken door now boarded up. "People are listening," Amara said, her voice hopeful. Marcus nodded, but his mind was on the challenges ahead. The lawsuit was moving forward, but the police department was digging in, claiming the raid was by the book. Evidence, like body cam footage, was slow to surface, and Marcus suspected stonewalling. He pulled out his phone and called Jamal again. "They're dragging their feet," Marcus said. "What's our next move?" Jamal's voice was firm. "Keep the pressure on. Go public, share your story. The system hates sunlight." Marcus hung up, turning to Amara. "We need to tell our story, everywhere." Amara nodded, her organizer's instincts kicking in. They began recording a video, sitting on their couch, the damage visible behind them. "I'm Marcus Reed, a Navy veteran," he began. "I'm Amara, a community organizer," she added. "This is what happened to us." They described the raid, the tossing, and their unborn child, their voices raw but resolute. Amara uploaded it to social media, and by morning, it had thousands of views. The video sparked a wildfire of support. Local activists organized a march to City Hall, hundreds strong, chanting "No more mistakes." Marcus and Amara led the front line, Amara's hand on her stomach. Marcus felt a surge of pride. Their pain had become a movement, but the backlash intensified. Anonymous calls left threatening messages, and Amara's center received hate mail. Marcus installed a new security system, his protective instincts on high alert. One night, as they lay in bed, Amara turned to him, her voice soft. "Do you ever feel like we're carrying the world?" Marcus nodded, pulling her close. "Every day. But we're not alone." He thought of the vigil, the march, and Ruiz's apology. "We've got people with us." The next morning, Nia called with news. The police had released partial body cam footage, showing the chaotic moments before Amara was tossed. It captured Marcus's 5-word plea, the room freezing, and Caldwell's hesitation. It's damning, Nia said. We'll use it to push for a trial. Marcus's heart lifted, but he knew the real battle was just beginning. The system was bigger than one raid, one mistake, but he and Amara were ready to fight for their child, their community, for justice. The courtroom in Harborview's municipal building was a study in contrasts, polished wood benches under harsh fluorescent lights, the weight of justice clashing with the mundane hum of bureaucracy. Marcus Reed sat beside Amara, his hand resting on hers, her 7-month pregnant belly a quiet reminder of the stakes. The civil rights lawsuit against the Harborview Police Department had reached trial, and the air was thick with tension. Their lawyer, Nia Carter, stood at the table, her posture sharp as she prepared to face the city's legal team. Marcus's Navy-honed focus kept him steady, but inside, a storm of emotions churned: anger at the injustice, fear for their unborn child, hope that their fight could spark change. The past weeks had been grueling. The partial body cam footage, showing the chaotic raid and Marcus's 5-word plea, "She's pregnant, you tossed my wife," had galvanized public support but also hardened the police department's defenses. They claimed the raid was a tragic but lawful error, arguing that Officer Caldwell acted reasonably under pressure. Marcus and Amara knew better. The footage captured Caldwell's hesitation, the team's confusion, and Amara's innocent reach for her phone, mistaken for a threat. It wasn't just a mistake, it was a failure of training, communication, and accountability. Nia began her opening statement, her voice clear and commanding. On April 12, 2025, Marcus and Amara Reed's home was invaded, their peace shattered, and their unborn child endangered by a reckless SWAT team acting on a flawed warrant. This wasn't just a clerical error, it was a violation of their rights, rooted in systemic negligence. The jury, a mix of Harborview residents, leaned forward, some nodding, others stone-faced. Marcus glanced at Amara, her eyes fierce despite the exhaustion etched in her face. She squeezed his hand, a silent vow to see this through. The defense attorney, a slick man named Hargrove, painted a different picture. Law enforcement operates in high-stakes environments, he said, his tone measured. Officer Caldwell and his team relied on a warrant they believed was accurate. Their actions, while unfortunate, were within protocol. Marcus's jaw tightened. Protocol didn't justify tossing a pregnant woman in her own home. The trial unfolded over days, each moment a test of endurance. Nia called witnesses, starting with Amara. She took the stand, her voice steady despite the weight of eyes on her. "I'm a community organizer," she said. "I teach kids to trust, to believe in fairness. But that night, I was a threat in my own home. I reached for my phone to call for help, and they tossed me. I thought I'd lose my baby." Her words hung heavy, jurors shifting uncomfortably. A woman in the back wiped her eyes. Marcus testified next, his military bearing evident. "I served 8 years in the Navy, trained to stay calm under pressure," he said. "But nothing prepared me for watching my wife collapse, tossed in front of me. I said, 'She's pregnant, you tossed my wife,' because they needed to know the truth. They had the wrong house." Nia played the body cam footage, the room falling silent as Marcus's voice cut through the chaos, freezing the SWAT team. The image of Amara trembling on the floor lingered, a powerful indictment. Officer Caldwell took the stand, his face taut. "We were told the address was a drug trafficker's," he said, avoiding Marcus's gaze. "When Mrs. Reed moved, I thought she was reaching for a weapon." Nia's cross-examination was relentless. "You didn't verify the address? Didn't confirm the suspect's identity?" Caldwell faltered. "We trusted the warrant." Nia pressed further, exposing gaps in the team's briefing and rushed decision-making. Outside the courtroom, the community buzzed. Amara's video had gone viral, amassing millions of views, and the march to City Hall had grown into weekly protests. Signs reading "Justice for the Reeds" and "Fix the System" dotted Harborview's streets. But the backlash was fierce. Online, anonymous accounts accused Marcus and Amara of playing the victim, while local news debated whether the police were just doing their job. At Amara's community center, a board member suggested she step back to avoid controversy. Amara refused, her resolve unshaken. "I won't be silenced," she told Marcus. "This is bigger than us." Marcus felt the weight too. At his garage, co-workers whispered, some supportive, others skeptical. One, a man named Tom, confronted him. "You're making cops look bad," he said. Marcus met his gaze. "They made themselves look bad when they tossed my pregnant wife." Tom backed off, but the tension lingered. Marcus channeled it into action, joining Amara at community forums, where they shared their story alongside others who'd faced police errors. A woman named Rosa spoke of her son, stopped and frisked for looking suspicious. A man, Jamal, recounted a wrongful arrest. Their voices wove a tapestry of shared pain, strengthening Marcus and Amara's resolve. One evening, Officer Ruiz, the young SWAT member who'd called for medics, reached out. They met at a quiet cafe, Ruiz's eyes nervous but sincere. "I've been training new officers," he said. "What happened to you? It's made me question how we're taught to act." Marcus studied him, seeing a flicker of the man he'd been in the Navy, trained to follow orders yet questioning their weight. "Help us change it," Marcus said. Ruiz nodded. "I'm trying. I've proposed better warrant checks, de-escalation drills." It was a small step, but it gave Marcus hope. Back in court, Nia called an expert on police procedures, who testified that the department's warrant verification was woefully inadequate. The defense countered with a retired chief, claiming the raid was standard practice. But the jury's attention wavered during his testimony, drawn back to the body cam footage looping in their minds. Marcus and Amara watched, holding hands, their unborn child a silent presence urging them forward. The trial wasn't just legal, it was personal. Amara's nightmares persisted, the taser's shock haunting her sleep. Marcus stayed awake, watching her, his protective instincts warring with helplessness. One night, she woke crying, her hands on her belly. "What if our baby grows up in a world where this is normal?" she whispered. Marcus pulled her close. "We're fighting so they won't have to." His words were a vow, not just to her but to their child. The community's support grew, a lifeline against the strain. Neighbors dropped off meals, activists organized fundraisers for legal fees, and a local artist painted a mural of Marcus and Amara outside their duplex, their faces resolute under the words "A light in the storm." But the pressure mounted. Hargrove's team dug into their past, hinting at Marcus's minor juvenile record to paint him as troubled. Amara faced scrutiny over her activism, labeled anti-police. Nia shut it down, arguing relevance, but the attack stung. As closing arguments loomed, Marcus and Amara sat in their living room, the boarded-up door ascar. "They're trying to break us," Amara said, her voice tired but firm. Marcus nodded, his Navy resolve kicking in. "They won't. We're stronger than that." They reviewed Nia's strategy, preparing for the final push. The trial's outcome would ripple beyond their lives, shaping Harborview's future. On the last day, Nia's closing was electric. This case isn't just about Marcus and Amara Reed. It's about every family who trusts the system to protect them, only to be betrayed by its failures. You have the power to demand accountability. Hargrove's rebuttal leaned on procedure, but it felt hollow against the Reed's truth. As the jury deliberated, Marcus and Amara waited outside, the weight of their fight heavy but shared. "Whatever happens," Marcus said, "we've made them listen." Amara smiled, her hand on her belly. "And we're not done." The jury's deliberation stretched into the third day, each hour a weight on Marcus and Amara Reed's shoulders. They sat in a small anteroom of Harborview's municipal courthouse, the hum of the air conditioner a faint backdrop to their quiet resolve. Amara, now 8 months pregnant, rested her hand on her belly, feeling the gentle kicks of their unborn child, a reminder of why they'd fought this far. Marcus sat beside her, his Navy-trained composure masking the storm within. The civil rights lawsuit against the Harborview Police Department had become more than their personal battle, it was a beacon for a community demanding change. Their lawyer, Nia Carter, paced nearby, her phone buzzing with updates from supporters gathered outside. The trial had gripped Harborview, with protests swelling daily, signs reading "Justice for the Reeds" and "No more mistakes" lining the streets. The viral video of Marcus and Amara's story, coupled with the damning body cam footage capturing Marcus's plea, "She's pregnant, you tossed my wife," had shifted public sentiment. But the police department's defense, led by the slick attorney Hargrove, clung to claims of lawful procedure, leaving the outcome uncertain. When the bailiff called them back, Marcus squeezed Amara's hand. "Whatever happens, we've changed things," he said, his voice steady. Amara nodded, her eyes fierce. "For our baby, for everyone." They entered the courtroom, the air thick with anticipation. The jury foreman, a middle-aged woman with a calm demeanor, stood to deliver the verdict. On the count of excessive force and violation of civil rights, we find the Harborview Police Department liable. A murmur rippled through the room. We award the plaintiffs $2.5 million in damages. Relief washed over Marcus, but it was tempered by resolve. The money would help medical bills, home repairs, their child's future, but justice demanded more than a payout. Nia leaned close. "This is a win, but the real work starts now," she whispered. The judge ordered the department to implement reforms: mandatory warrant verification, enhanced de-escalation training, and a civilian oversight board. Marcus and Amara exchanged a glance, a silent vow to hold them accountable. Outside, the crowd erupted in cheers as Nia announced the verdict. Marcus and Amara stepped into the sunlight, hands clasped, facing a sea of supporters. "This isn't just our victory," Amara said, her voice amplified by a megaphone. "It's for every family who's been silenced, every community that deserves trust." Marcus added, "We'll keep fighting until the system changes." The applause was deafening, but Marcus noticed Officer Ruiz in the crowd, his expression conflicted yet hopeful, a sign that even within the department, seeds of change were sprouting. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind. The settlement eased financial strains, allowing Marcus to repair their duplex, replacing the splintered door with a sturdy oak one, a symbol of renewal. Amara, on maternity leave from her community center, channeled her energy into advocacy, co-founding a group called Harborview United. It brought together residents, activists, and reform-minded officers like Ruiz to push for systemic change. Their first victory was a city council vote to fund the oversight board, with Amara testifying, her pregnancy a powerful testament to the stakes. But healing was harder than winning. Amara's nightmares lingered, the tasers shock a ghost in her sleep. One night, she woke trembling, her hands on her belly. "I keep seeing that night," she whispered. Marcus held her close, his voice soft. "We're building a safer world for our child. You're stronger than those memories." Amara nodded, drawing strength from his words. Marcus, too, carried scars: anger at the violation, guilt for not stopping it. He found solace in their movement, speaking at forums where families shared stories of police errors, their collective pain forging bonds of resilience. The community's response evolved. The mural outside their duplex, depicting Marcus and Amara under a light in the storm, became a pilgrimage site, adorned with flowers and notes of gratitude. Neighbors organized workshops on rights during police encounters, empowering residents. At Marcus's garage, co-workers who'd once doubted him now asked questions, curious about reform. Even Tom, the skeptic, admitted, "I didn't get it before." "You're doing something real." Marcus nodded, offering a wrench. "Join us." Tom hesitated, then smiled, a small but meaningful shift. Amara's community center thrived, her youth programs drawing record numbers. Parents who'd questioned her now praised her courage, and kids painted cards for baby Reed, a symbol of hope. One girl, Maya, hugged Amara. "You're like a superhero," she said. Amara laughed, tears in her eyes. "We're all heroes when we stand together." The center hosted a town hall, where Ruiz and other officers discussed new training protocols, earning cautious applause. Trust was fragile, but it was growing. As Amara's due date neared, Marcus took leave to prepare. They transformed their spare room into a nursery, painting it soft blue, a crib nestled under a mobile of stars. One evening, as they folded tiny clothes, Amara turned to Marcus. "Do you think our baby will know how hard we fought?" Marcus smiled, his hand on her belly. "They'll feel it in the world we're building." The kicks against his palm felt like agreement, a spark of life tying their past to their future. The backlash hadn't vanished. Online trolls still spewed hate, and some officers resisted reform, calling it anti-cop. But the tide was turning. A local news exposé revealed systemic warrant errors statewide, crediting the Reeds case for sparking scrutiny. The police chief, under pressure, announced early retirement, paving the way for a reform-minded successor. Marcus and Amara knew change was incremental, but each step felt like a victory.
On a crisp October morning, Amara's contractions began.
Marcus drove her to Harborview Medical Center, his heart racing but steady. The labor was long, Amara's strength awe-inspiring as she gripped his hand. At dusk, their daughter, Zuri, was born, 7 pounds, eyes wide with wonder. Marcus cradled her, tears streaming. "You're our light," he whispered. Amara, exhausted but radiant, smiled. "Our storm brought her here."
Zuri's arrival was a milestone, not an endpoint.
Marcus and Amara returned to advocacy, Zuri in a carrier against Amara's chest as they spoke at rallies. Harborview United grew, influencing nearby cities to adopt reforms. Ruiz became a trainer, teaching de-escalation with a passion born from the raid. The Oversight Board, with community input, reviewed complaints, restoring trust case by case. 1 year after the raid, Marcus and Amara stood at the mural, Zuri babbling in Marcus's arms. The community gathered for an anniversary vigil, candles flickering against the dusk. "We were broken that night," Marcus said, his voice carrying. "But we rebuilt together." Amara added, "Our daughter's future is our fight. Let's keep the light burning." The crowd cheered, their unity a testament to resilience. As they walked home, Zuri asleep against Marcus's shoulder, Amara looked at the stars. "Do you think we've made a difference?" she asked. Marcus nodded, his eyes on their daughter. "We've started something unstoppable." The duplex loomed ahead, its oak door strong, its walls holding their story. Inside, they laid Zuri in her crib, her breath soft under the star mobile. Marcus and Amara stood together, their hands entwined, a family forged in fire, their light enduring in the storm.